A logical outcome of your pathology training is getting a job. However, there are not many resources for pathology trainees to learn the ins and outs of this journey. My name is Abdul Abid, and I recently went through this process during my last year of fellowship. I created this presentation based on my experiences, and it is meant for pathology trainees at any level who are interested in the job seeking process. The good news is that the demand for pathologists is higher than ever, and you will find a job. It may take longer than you think, or it may not have every single thing on your dream list, but at the end of the day, you will find a pathology job. On Pathology Outlines, there are more than 700 open positions advertised right now. All of us go through the residency match process and then the fellowship process. I want to emphasize that finding a job and the process for finding a job is different than those experiences. You have a lot more leverage and choices for training positions. I will try to use a 5 Ws and 1 H approach to this issue. You have to ask these questions when thinking of jobs. You, the audience, is the who, and the why is the job. I have been asked this question many times, and when I was applying, I asked this question myself. When should you start looking for a job? Ideally, you should start during your last year of training. You can start earlier if you have specific requirements, like a visa or geographic restriction. I remember talking to this person who wanted to stay in their hometown for a job, and while they were a resident, they approached one of the local pathology groups, and they eventually got a job with them after training. Once you decide to start looking, where to look? These are some of the options that you have. I personally relied on pathology outlines, but I've heard that some of the best jobs are never advertised. If you have good connections, you can find a good job, but that is not the only thing that not the only way that you can find a good job. When I was in fellowships, our program coordinators or program directors would forward any job openings that were sent to them. I have been to a lot of conferences, both state level and national, during my time, and I have met many people who were looking to fill positions. At a Texas Society of Pathologists meeting, I remember counting at least three employers looking to hire people. I once went to a conference in Orlando where I got leads for jobs at three different places, one in the US and two internationally. Another way to find jobs is through recruiters. I know people who have taken this route and are happy with this. I have heard some employers say that they don't like working with recruiters, so I leave it up to you to decide what you want. Lastly, some people have a geographic restriction. They have family in an area or other reasons to stay somewhere specific. It is up to you to decide early on in the process if you're going to look in one particular region or all over the US. Both have their pros and cons. I think this is one of the most important questions in this process. And the earlier you decide, the easier your life will be. Do you want to go into private practice, academia, industry, or hybrid? There are different types of pathology practices out there right now, and depending on what you're looking for, you'll choose one of these categories. The CAP Residence Forum frequently does practice setting sessions during its programming, and you can attend those sessions to find out what different options there are. When I was choosing, I asked myself two questions, and based on the responses, I chose for myself. Question number one, do you like research and teaching with a subspecialty focus, or do you like signing out cases and a generalist approach? Question number two, do you want to send consults or receive them? I'm sure other people have different approaches, so work with what you feel most comfortable with. Once you know you want a certain type of job, academic or private, where you want it, and you see job listings on Pathology Outlines, what comes next? You can start emailing people. What should you write in that email? This is how I used to do when I was applying for jobs. Hi, I saw your ad in Pathology Outlines. I'm currently a cytopathology fellow at institution A. I finished my APCP residency in institution B and passed the boards in 2022, and then did a surgical pathology fellowship at institution C. I want to know more about the opportunity and your group. My CV is attached. This was the template that I used. It is clear cut and simple. You can use whatever you like. Many places also ask for up to 3 professional references before or after interviewing you. I want to emphasize that the job interview process is a multi-step process, unlike residency or fellowship. The process right now is more like online dating. Once you email a practice, if they like your CV, they will write back and would ask for a good time for a phone call. Your first call would most likely with an administrator, not a pathologist, unless it's a very small group. After that call, you will either ask for a follow-up call or Zoom call with a pathologist. Finally, if both parties like each other, there would be an in-person visit. Then, if both parties still like each other, there would be talk of a job offer. Most places are going to ask you, what are you looking for in an ideal job? This is very similar to when residency and fellowship interviewers always asked, tell me about yourself. So just like that, I think you should have an elevator pitch, a single sentence of what you want from a prospective job, with the caveat in mind that you are most likely not going to find everything in a single job, unless you get super lucky. This is where the earlier what question comes in play. So this was my elevator pitch, for example. I want to join a private practice job in a medium-sized city where I can do general surgical pathology and some cytopathology, some digital pathology, and which has a partnership track. The next question you have to ask yourself is, what would you want to do in a job and what would you absolutely not want to do? The deal breakers. For example, some people do not want to do cytopathology or neuropathology or hemepath or CP call or autopsies or lab administration. Remember that in some private groups, everyone has to do peripheral smears and bone marrows, even if you're not heme trained. So you should definitely ask those questions when you go for an interview. At some places, they even make you do cyto if you're not cyto trained. These are all the things that you have to be get on your radar. Most places with pathology outline ads, they give out basic details of their work. If there is a partnership track, their case volume, case fix, etc. So you can filter many places out based on that. Once you go for a site visit, there are many things to look for and ask. For private groups, you should ask how many group members there are. Are they subspecialized or do general sign out? What kind of partnership track do they offer? How long do you have to work there to be eligible for partnership? If they sponsor visas, how much vacation and how does vacation work? Do you have to ask for a year in advance? How much CME time? Are there CME funds? What are the typical work hours? Is there flexibility? Don't listen to people who are senior and they tell you, oh, I'm done by 2 p.m. most days. This is a big pitfall. When you start out of training, you are not going to be as fast as the most senior people. Ask them when new people join, is there a grace period to adjust with supervision or are you just on your own? Is there a 401k match? Who was the last person to be made partner? How are cases divided? Is there a sign-on bonus? When do you get it? And will you have to gross? So all of these things, some of them are mentioned in pathology outlines, a lot of them are not. So you kind of have to have them on your radar. For academia, there are certain different questions. You can ask for protected time for research. What are the expectations for teaching? How much time is allotted for that? Research funds? How is bonus determined? And the start date. It is never good to It is never a good idea to discuss political or religious differences in a job interviews. Also, salary is a sticky topic because most people, and that includes me, are reluctant to bring up compensation. Asking in the first interview is probably not ideal, but you should definitely ask during your in-person visit or subsequent interviews. How to ask is another important question. I learned that the best way to ask is, how are individuals at my level of experience being compensated? You should know that when employers are hiring, they are looking to solve specific issues. They need a heme person or a cyto person or someone who won't mind taking CP call. So unless you have training in those things or are comfortable enough, don't take that job. In addition to just your diplomas, what else can you bring to the job? Have you ever had leadership positions before, like chief president or committee chair for an organization? For academic jobs, do you have prior teaching experience? Are you interested in doing autopsies? Have you seen transplant cases? Some fellowships offer independent sign-out experience, and that is a huge plus when you're looking for jobs. Similarly, would you be okay taking CP call? Would you be fine with lab directorship? Have you done CAP inspections before? Some of these skills are soft skills that are not exclusively taught during residency, and if you have worked on them, you will be an asset to your group, be in academia or private. Congratulations! The place you like also like you. You have an offer to join them. But before you say yes, please ask them to send you the contract. The contract should have details about your compensation, benefits, details about malpractice insurance, length of contract, time to partnership, and other conditions for the job. Go through the contract yourself and ideally review it alongside a contract lawyer who works with healthcare contracts. The lawyer will ask you what you're looking for in a particular job. Based on what you have learned from your interactions with your prospective employers, and then make sure that you understand everything that you're agreeing to. They may ask you to negotiate a few things within a reasonable limit. In my experience, most places have a standard contract and it is hard to get anything changed, but you should at least try. My wife always says there is no harm in asking. The worst they can say is no. Once you have offers, it is time to decide which place you like best. Remember that this is a big decision and you should consult with your family before deciding, especially if you are married and have kids. Do you want to live closer to other family members? Would your spouse be okay moving to a particular city? Would there be good daycare options or better school districts? How much are the state taxes, etc.? There are many variables that matter, and you have to think through these alongside your life partner. The ultimate question to answer is, what is the best thing for my family? Congratulations, you have a job. Now the real work starts. You should start applying for a permanent license in that state as soon as you sign the contract because it takes time, a lot of time in many states. I hope you have your medical school diploma, your residency completion certificate, and your fellowship verification in FCVS before this happens. But if not, now is your time to start working on it. Secondly, gather your important documents somewhere reliable, a folder on your computer, and back it up on some cloud service as well, because you're going to need them many times. In that folder, you need to have a recent official photo, your updated CV, your NPI number, your APCP diploma, certificate of completion of residency, and if you have completed a fellowship already, completion certificate for that, CME credits in the last year, although most places make exceptions for recent grads, current medical license, history of any licenses that you have ever held, current liability insurance, and most importantly, your vaccination records, and 3 to 4 professional references. Some places will also require a current BLS card and things like your social security card and driver's license. You then have to fill multiple forms with the same information, so be prepared. Also, the hospital privileged people are going to take a comb and ask for every single document that you can imagine. I had to get a new social security card just because a single hospital in California did not accept my previous one, which had been accepted by everyone from the federal government to teaching hospitals and medical boards in 4 different states. This is a brief summary of my presentation. I hope it is helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. I have also provided a QR code of a folder where I have gathered resources from different places, including screenshots from a talk given by an employment lawyer, a list of potential questions to ask in the interview, and an overview of contracts done by my friend Meredith Herman. Thank you for your time.